best content to deliver to you, one who views UBC television, as I prepare to inspire you, and of course blessed that I get to do that. My name is Julie F. Nantaba, and we're starting off with an update from the Ministry of Health that has launched a teenage pregnancy surveillance response and accountability framework to support the health sector to improve the health of adolescents. The initiative will delay exposure risks for teenage pregnancies and early marriages while scaling up adolescent services at the health facilities. At least 34% of girls below 18 years engage in early sex that sometimes results into teenage pregnancies and early marriages. 24% of girls aged 15 to 19 bear children before average age and risk catching HIV and AIDS. But moving on to an update that is, of course, regarding today's major events. The Electoral Commission has announced the registration and nomination process of local constituency representatives to Parliament. The program starts today and ends on Thursday, October 23rd, and it will focus on the following activities: directly elected MPs in districts and cities, 353 of them to be nominated. Women representatives in districts and cities, 146 representatives of older persons, SIGs, 5 of them representatives of PWDs, that is persons with disabilities, 5 of them workers representatives, 5 of them, as well as youth representatives, 5 of them. Justice Biabakama presented the plan to the nation in the presence of representatives of presidential candidates, representatives of political party officials, aspiring candidates, and other political stakeholders. There are rules and regulations. Candidates must follow payment of the nomination fees to the Electoral Commission within the stipulated time, and that is non-refundable. No need for those outside of Kampala to move to EC Kampala for verification. Being a registered voter is in the electoral area, possessing the minimum academic qualifications for members of Parliament, submitting all required nomination forms and documents duly signed and endorsed by the necessary authorities, resignation of civil servants seeking political positions, and present 2 current passport-size photos, have 2 vehicles approaching the nomination venue with not more than 10 people, and upon nomination, returning officers shall meet nominated candidates 24th to 27th October. Now, Justice Biabakama clarified that the election of the UPDF representatives to Parliament will be conducted later. After being confirmed and cleared by the Electoral Commission, successful candidates will be allowed to present and launch their manifestos to the electorate. Campaigns will start officially November 10th, and the Electoral Commission also announced that re-elections for local government representatives who passed away after being elected will be scheduled between 27th and 28th of this month. Biabakama warned aspirants against commercialization of politics, and representatives of different political parties shared their experiences. Now, the Electoral Commission announced that the registration and nomination of candidates will take place at district and city levels. The process for persons with disabilities will be conducted at the Commission's headquarters in Kampala, and according to the Commission, official campaigning will conclude on 13th January with voting scheduled for 15th January. A very good morning to you. This is Good Morning Uganda. I am not alone. I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Always a pleasure getting to serve with him every morning to you, our dear viewer. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Julie, and of course our viewer. Thank you very much for waking up with us this lovely, yet another day that the Lord has blessed us with. Now, Julie said it all when it comes to the main event of the day. That is nomination for members of Parliament, special interest groups, not forgetting directly elected, and of course the district women representatives. Now, one of the things there is, let's not commercialize politics. I've been looking at the campaign trail, and in one of the stories we're going to read, that is in the ANT group, one of the things that has come out is people demanding for money. People look at the campaign period as an opportunity to extract or extort or even get money from those that are vying for these seats. Well, even some of the candidates themselves are using this, but this is watering down the whole essence of democracy in this country. Do you know why, Julie? Because when I invest, no wonder we see people selling houses, brokering their land. Now, when I invest to get the vote, blame me not when I don't serve you, because I'm recouping what I invested in. Yes, it's good to show ability, but where everywhere a person goes, honorable tulesotia, mukuru tulesotia, showing signs, several of you get the viruji, whatever you've said is good, but how have you left us? So if money is going to determine who comes in leadership, then let's not come and castigate, punch MPs here and there. They're not serving us. We are the people who made the situation that they have to buy us. Someone even says, if you give me 10,000, I can even give you my voter slip or my national ID or something like that. So we must
indeed, it's very important
stop
that
this habit of thinking. This is a time for us to get money, then put these people, whatever. Come on, what on earth to what do?
It's indeed very important that you say that, as it is. One time we hosted a guest who said that you, viewer, you citizen of Uganda, you electorate are actually the honorable member, not the other person, because they are supposed to serve you and the power is in your hands. Well, today is an action-packed day, you could say. If you could use the metaphor of film, you could at least use the language of film, ya Masasi, but this time around, see ya Masasi, ya the road to 20.
Actually, I'm very happy how the current candidates for the presidential positions are maintaining peace.
Yes.
And also police. Yesterday I saw Kakumiro. I want to thank the police and also the candidate.
Right. Now, because today is really, really action-packed, you cannot miss out on this one. So save the number 0709 602592. We definitely want to do this with you on that side. But for now, let's have a look at what we have on the local scene, Robert.
Well, politics first, and the various candidates where they were and their messages. Now, on the second day of the Acholi sub-region presidential campaign trail, NRM presidential candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni campaigned in Omoro district. A PT primary school hosted President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's campaign rally. The Tuesday evening campaign rally was massively attended. A section of party members who had showed interest in contesting as independents were presented to the president as they declared to step down. The father of the late Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, graced the occasion. In Noya, the NRM presidential candidate, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni pledged to fast-track the compensation of people affected by Karuma hydropower dam construction and victims affected by the wildlife conflict in Noya district that is bordering Makshin Falls Dam. Makshin Falls Park. Museveni made the pledge, explained the NRM manifesto to the people of Noya district as well. The FDC presidential candidate Nathan Nandala Mafabi promised to release the Karachunas who were arrested in Kotido district. While holding his campaign rally in Kotido, Mafabi said if the Karachunas had a case to answer, they would have been produced in court. In other news, the residents of Kakumiro and Kikuwe district gathered alongside the streets and at playgrounds to welcome the National Unity Platform President and party flag bearer Robert Chagulanyi Center. Chagulanyi, on a campaign trail across the Bunyoro Kingdom, addressed supporters promising to build the oil city, improve education and health care, and increase workers' salaries. He urged the people of Bunyoro to vote for him. In the ant camp, as Uganda gears up for the 2026 general elections, poverty remains a concern as voters demand handouts instead of solutions to alleviate poverty. This handout syndrome was reflected in many districts where General Mugisha Muntu campaigned. People have been demanding for money to solve their immediate needs. Leaders from various government agencies met with the head of the State House Investors Protection Unit, Colonel Edith Nakalema, to strategize on how to actively and effectively communicate the achievements of government programs to the public. The head of government ministries, departments and agencies convened under the leadership of Colonel Edith Nakalema to promote transparency, accountability and public awareness of government initiatives. The meeting focused on strengthening collaboration between agencies and the media, creating unified messaging to highlight success stories of government programs and countering misinformation. The meeting was graced by key figures in the science and health cluster. However, challenges exist in disseminating information to the Executive Director of Uganda Heart Institute, Dr. John Omangino, who said most agencies struggle to sustain media coverage due to limited budget. The media fraternity pressed a strong commitment to disseminating accurate and authentic information about government. Colonel Nakalema emphasized that many citizens are unaware of government achievements. Coming to the end of our local stories this morning, Uganda Bureau of Statistics signed a memorandum of understanding with the Interreligious Council of Uganda and the Kingdom of Bunyoro and Omukuka Wabugisu to consolidate better and reliable data collection. The memorandum was signed targeting the establishment of statistical units, build the capacity of the personnel manning the units, and scaling up civic knowledge. The kingdoms said some data is specific and can be better extracted with their intervention. It's stating the signing of a memorandum of understanding with Uganda Bureau of Statistics for better statistical collection. Belatedly, UBOS also signed another memorandum of understanding with the Interreligious Council of Uganda. The statistical body will set up statistical units, equip the team with tablets, among many things. The efforts will enhance evidence-gathered planning for improved service delivery. Now that brings us to the end of our local stories this morning, and Julie will take us to what the rest of the world has for us.
Very well indeed, Robert. Thank you for that update. And looking at what we have on the global scene, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance warned the Hamas group that if it didn't cooperate, then it would be obliterated, as he spoke alongside the envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner at the U.S. Embassy in Israel yesterday. Quote unquote, the terms of the 20-point plan that the president put out there is very clear. It's supported not just by Israel, but by all our Gulf Arab friends, he said. It's that Hamas has to disarm. It's that Hamas has to actually behave itself, and that Hamas, while all the fighters can be given some sort of clemency, they're not going to be able to kill each other, and they're not going to be able to kill their fellow Palestinians. And if Hamas doesn't cooperate, then, as the President of the United States has said, Hamas is going to be obliterated, he added. Donald Trump was in Israel earlier this month for the start of the Gaza peace deal, which included the ongoing ceasefire and exchange of hostages and prisoners. Well, now moving on, Madrid's streets transformed into a woolly wonderland as shepherds and their flock paraded through the city for the annual Transhumance Festival on Sunday, celebrating the centuries-old tradition of transporting livestock between seasonal pastures. Now, footage shows hundreds of sheep and goats parading through central Madrid, guided by shepherds in traditional attire, as folk musicians performed songs and dances along the routes. The beloved parade returned in full swing after the festival's 2024 cancellation due to concerns over blue tongue disease variant. Now, the festival reenacts the ancient practice of transhumance when herders guided their animals from summer to winter grazing grounds, a journey that once passed through what is now the city's busiest center. Keeping with tradition, organizers paid a symbolic toll of 50 maravedis in medieval coins at Madrid City Hall, a custom dating back to a 1418 agreement between Spanish shepherds and the city council, held annually since 1994. The Transhumance Festival also serves to highlight the environmental benefits of traditional grazing, which helps clear bush and reduce the risk of wildfires. Very interesting image. That's that. But let's come to the continent here in Africa. Madagascar's interim head of state, Colonel Michael Randrianirina, named businessman Herin Salama Rajanorivelo as the island state's new prime minister in Antananarivo on Monday. Quote unquote, this is a great day, the day we appoint a new prime minister in this time of renewal, Colonel Michael Randrianirina said while addressing the assembly. The choice was made for several reasons: his competence, his experience, and especially his strong connections with international organizations working with the Malagasy nation, he added. He claimed strict adherence to the constitution, noting that the selection followed the proposal by members of parliament. Footage shows Rajanorivelo being sworn in during a ceremony at Lavoloha State Palace and subsequently shaking hands with the attending officials. Randrianirina will serve as interim head of state under a traditional authority with a national election expected to be held within the next 2 years. On Tuesday, Colonel Randrianirina, announced that the armed forces were taking control of the country's government, and he also suspended the 2010 constitution. Now we end Madagascar in transition as a story that ends what we have on the foreign scene, bringing us to what we have on in the dailies today. And also please be informed that it has started pouring, and by the hear of things, it sounds like it's quite heavy, so prepare as you plan to step out.
Now,
Yes,
when
Robert.
I listen and follow events that are happening in Madagascar, I find all reasons to thank God for the government we have in power. Much as you would think in the 21st century, things like banning a country's constitution, whatever is happening there, that it can still happen. It can still happen. So it calls for us being very wise, most at such a time that we are heading into. Which
Right.
decisions does one make depending on how you want the country to be? Because you can't believe that in the 21st century certain things are happening in certain countries, you know. Prorogating of a constitution, then someone, declaring that. We had that during one of our presidents that we don't forget to remember, the late Idi Amin. But these things are still happening in some countries. So we thank God.
Indeed.
Now, moving into what we have in the papers, beginning with a new vision this morning, 2026, EC issues guidelines for MP nominations. Now hundreds cross to NRM. We have Health Ministry to address obesity in schools. How?
Interesting.
Indeed, very interesting. Presidential candidates set up hunt for votes, and Uganda gets first float plane to fight maternal death. Moving on, still in the new vision, well, there's so much regarding each candidate, where they were and their messages. Now I'll quickly go to the Daily Monitor this morning, where toughest MP seats to win. Which seats are those? Well, the Daily Monitor has you covered. Envoy's baby died of lack of oxygen, not fall. Which envoy? Well, the Daily Monitor has that. And why government is on a boring spur. Now the lizard here says something, but I choose to leave it. And find the latest papers of English, mathematics, science, and social studies. I wind up the Daily Monitor with that, but let me see what Julie has from the papers in our neighboring country.
Right, and Kenya is representing this morning the Daily Nation. What did Raila say? That's the headline. And factional wars within the Orange Democratic Movement have intensified, with rivals clashing on the political direction decreed by party leader Raila Odinga, who passed away on Wednesday. The dispute is on the outfit's commitment to the broad-based government and subsequent support for the President Ruto's re-election. Twin issues over which each side is conveniently interpreting Raila's word to its advantage. But what was his wish? Want to know more? Get yourself a copy of the Daily Nation. And indeed, the Orange Party split by wrangles on its 20th anniversary. Wow! Politics indeed can mean to be politics, but also storm over laws Ruto signed on dark Wednesday. And of course, the stories on education, how suspect in KCSE exam papers fraud was arrested, and matters crime, why man accused of killing son was freed. And story on tragedy, they went to mourn their leader, now they too are in coffins. Sad indeed. But let's take some time off and look at what the campaign trail for the presidential candidates looks like. Uganda votes 2026. Today, the NRM candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is in Gulu City and Lamuo. And the NPP candidate Kasibante Robert is taking some time off to rest today. Now, the aunt candidate Mchamuntu Gregory is in Kakumido and Shibare, and Chagulanyi Sentamu Robert, candidate representing the new party, is in Hoima and Hoima City. Today, the 22nd day of October 2025, and the FDC candidate Nandala Nathan Mafabi is in Serere today, and CMP candidate Munyagwa Mubarak today is in Machindie Division. And Bulira Frank, representing the RPP, is taking time off to rest, while CP's representative Mabirizi Joseph is in Mokono today. Uganda goes to the polls. Who will be the next president? And of course, we are here to bring it all to you as it unravels day by day. And remember, just in case it just did not ring as a memo to you, today members of parliament are being nominated. Those who are aspiring to be members of parliament are being nominated starting today into tomorrow. And indeed, we're bringing this story to you right where you are. By the way, you can also follow us online. We are very available on YouTube, X, as well as all online platforms. For now, let's have a short break as we enjoy some music from Juliana Kanyomozi, Zabu. Good morning, Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
That is Uganda, Kenya, Tanzanian time. Welcome to the show and a good morning to you. I am quite starting off the show with a beef to the producer for cutting off a song that was starting my day, that Makoma song, a major throwback. But oh well, no holding beef, because I have great content to deliver to you. One who views UBC television, as I prepare to inspire you, and of course blessed that I get to do that. My name is Julie F. Nantaba, and we're starting off with an update from the Ministry of Health that has launched a teenage pregnancy surveillance response and accountability framework to support the health sector to improve the health of adolescents. The initiative will delay exposure risks for teenage pregnancies and early marriages while scaling up adolescent services at the health facilities. At least 34% of girls below 18 years engage in early sex that sometimes results into teenage pregnancies and early marriages. 24% of girls aged 15 to 19 bear children before average age and risk catching HIV and AIDS. But moving on to an update that is, of course, regarding today's major events. The Electoral Commission has announced the registration and nomination process of local constituency representatives to Parliament. The program starts today and ends on Thursday, October 23rd, and it will focus on the following activities: directly elected MPs in districts and cities, 353 of them to be nominated. Women representatives in districts and cities, 146 representatives of older persons, SIGs, 5 of them representatives of PWDs, that is persons with disabilities, 5 of them workers representatives, 5 of them, as well as youth representatives, 5 of them. Justice Byabakama presented the plan to the nation in the presence of representatives of presidential candidates, representatives of political party officials, aspiring candidates, and other political stakeholders. There are rules and regulations. Candidates must follow payment of the nomination fees to the Electoral Commission within the stipulated time, and that is non-refundable. No need for those outside of Kampala to move to EC Kampala for verification. Being a registered voter is in the electoral area, possessing the minimum academic qualifications for members of Parliament, submitting all required nomination forms and documents duly signed and endorsed by the necessary authorities, resignation of civil servants seeking political positions, and present 2 current passport-size photos, have 2 vehicles approaching the nomination venue with not more than 10 people, and upon nomination, returning officers shall meet nominated candidates 24th to 27th October. Now, Justice Byabakama clarified that the election of the UPDF representatives to Parliament will be conducted later. After being confirmed and cleared by the Electoral Commission, successful candidates will be allowed to present and launch their manifestos to the electorate. Campaigns will start officially November 10th, and the Electoral Commission also announced that re-elections for local government representatives who passed away after being elected will be scheduled between 27th and 28th of this month. Byabakama warned aspirants against commercialization of politics, and representatives of different political parties shared their experiences. Now, the Electoral Commission announced that the registration and nomination of candidates will take place at district and city levels. The process for persons with disabilities.
Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select